Good morning. That's my thing. I always say good morning. Always say good morning. Good afternoon or good evening. And thank you all for joining us for what is our fourth or fifth Chancellor Snicker series. This one I'm very excited about. Excited to have Mylas Copeland joining Chancellor Gooch to have a conversation about, we're all in this together. I got to be a part of the planning meeting, and I just want to let y'all know we're in for a treat. So typically these things go that we take 30 minutes of just conversation between the two, but I've let them two know already that if we go 45 minutes, I'm okay with that. So we're gonna let them talk, and then after that we'll get to questions, and then we kick it back to them to kind of close it up. So without further ado, I'll kick it off to Chancellor Gooch.
Okay, thanks DeMarco. Thanks for coming, everybody. All right, Mylas. We had such a fun time when we did our little planning meeting for this. So the conversation was excellent, so I know it's going to be really good tonight as well. So let's start with the title, We Are All in This Together. Tell us about that. We hear that often, but for you it carries a very significant meaning. So share that with us.
Well, first I think you have to really understand how it started. And how it started was by accident. Right? We were in the midst of a very, very turbulent time with Toyota Motor Cells. They had just announced a stop sale, the first time in the history of the manufacturer. And we as a company began to get a lot of pushback, not only from our consumers, from our competitors, from the media. All across the globe, people were saying, stop driving Toyotas. My family was driving Toyotas. And so it was actually a conversation with my wife that she had reminded about, that she said, well, I said you should say this. But I said, well, we're kind of all in this together. And it was from that I began this really, I think, kind of marketing piece to tell people, I get it, but we are really all in this together. We are all driving the same cars. We all want the same thing. And then through time, it has evolved. It has evolved into not just a slogan for what we do at the dealership, but really I think for the way we want to, and I try to approach things in this community and in life. We are truly all in this together. It sounds very cliche-ish, it sounds very blanketed, but it encompasses so much. And it allows us, when you deep dive, to look at a lot of different aspects of it. But that's really how it all started. And again, I volley back. I told my wife many years ago, I said, I should have trademarked that. I think I could have made some money. And she said, you can't do that. You can't trademark a phrase. But nevertheless, that is how, at least here, I began to use We're All in This Together.
All right, so for the sake of the audience, tell us a little bit about just you, what you do, maybe a little bit about your history.
Certainly. My name is Mylas Copeland. I am originally from Decatur, Illinois, a product of School District 1, thank you. I say I'm a product of 61, I made it out. But I attended Millikan University, and I came to Springfield, again, somewhat by accident. I was in radio for a long time. And when I went to work in radio, I was approached from a company and said, hey, we've got an opportunity for you to join us. And I said, doing what? And I said, what you're doing now, you're doing marketing and FM sales. And the first day I walked into the company, there was someone else sitting at the desk that they told me I would occupy. And the short version is that they had inadvertently given the job to someone else, but they forgot to tell me, and I had already quit my job. And so as a result, the person who had hired me said, look, if you're ever going to be in the car business, let me teach you the car business. And so he walked me from the front of the store to the back of the store, and that day I began my career as a service writer, having never been in the car business before. 2 years later, I relocated to Springfield as a sales manager, and I told him for the second time, you've got the wrong person. I don't sell cars. I'm just learning how to fix them. And that's how I started. July 28th, 1997, I started as a sales manager at Green Toyota. Here we are some 28 years later. I am now the managing partner of Toyota Audi Volkswagen. I served on a number of various boards in terms of automobile related, but that's what brought me to Springfield. So happy to be a Springfield resident, raised our children here. It has been a wonderful community for us. And again, I want to continue to see it thrive and move in the right direction.
Great. So your story about We're All in This Together tied back to the Toyota and your experience with Toyota. But how has that phrase really shaped your life and your leadership, would you say?
I think it has given me a pathway to be able to have conversations and put myself on, for lack of a better term, a level playing field, an equal footing with other people. It is very easy for me, and as we say, we want to show empathy. We want to have those conversations when we are talking with people that says, I understand how you feel. I feel that same way. I want the same results for you and for me and for us, regardless of the situation, whether we're talking about something that affects us in terms of our business, whether it's in something that affects us in terms of our community, whether I was talking about something that was affecting our children. We're all in it together. And if we really believe that, right, if we really harness that, then we have to approach things differently. We have to have real conversations. We have to be willing to have sometimes tougher conversations and understand that that is how, at least I, have chosen to approach things, knowing that I want the same vested interest, I have the same at stake, so we're in it together.
Excellent. I do drive a Toyota, by the way.
Thank you
You're
so
welcome.
much. Would you like a new one?
I'm proud
Because I have keys and a computer with me.
We can talk about that later.
Okay.
All right. So Mylas, you've broken barriers, both seen and unseen. As a Black leader here in Springfield, what doors have you had to break down, do you think, to lead the way you do today?
I think sometimes I find myself maybe reminding myself I deserve to be in the room. There are still times that I look around in different settings, in different arenas where we have leaders, and there's still no one else in there who looks like me. We are still today, just shy of 2026, still saying things of first. I am the first, which is really astonishing that we are still in an arena and in a time where we're still saying first. So I think that when you are a minority, when you are working in a field or you are leading a team and there are not a lot of people who, one, look like you, and I'm going to say especially, but specifically in today's world, you sometimes have to pull yourself a little tighter and say, I deserve to be in the room. Now, I don't feel like I have a drawback. I don't feel like I have hesitation, but I also feel like I have to say that for other people in the room or who are looking into the room. Mm-hmm. Because I want other people to know you have just as every right to be there as the others. I have taken people from my team that have been incarcerated, that have had troubled lives, that have had no experience. In all three of those scenarios, I can tell you three individuals that are now leading corporations across the US in our industry. That's not because I was anything special, but it was because I gave them a chance and I believed them enough to say, you deserve the right to be in the room. And I think that if we really do that and we harness that, and if we're in it together, then it's really not only our responsibility, but it's our opportunity to better someone else's life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think what you're talking about there really captures the definition of transformational leadership. You know, you're really trying to build up people who work with you and transform them into the best they can be. As part of the team, we're all in this together, right?
Right.
So that sounds very worthwhile to me.
You know, what's a leader? Someone told me many years ago, don't get to the point where you're as a leader and you say, I've arrived. I'm there. I'm at the leadership point. I can kick my shoes off. Whew, made it. Because it is much harder to be a leader than to become a leader, right? It is much harder and much more challenging to go out there and lead your team by example. Let them know that I'm not ever going to ask you to do something that I don't do myself. We got 12 inches of snow. For the last 3 days, I've been sitting in a wheel loader moving snow from one position of the lot to the other, right? And I told the guys yesterday, I don't think you'll find a lot of other owners in a Caterpillar wheel loader at 4 a.m. moving snow so your employees can get to work. But it's one of the things that it's in my DNA. I'm just built that way. And I'm never going to ask someone to do something I won't do because, again, we're in it together. And when they see that, they got there, immediately they started picking things up, and here we go. Now we've got this complete team running at the same pace, trying to do the same thing because they know I'm out in front.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you mentioned it's harder to be a leader than to become a leader. Your journey to leadership couldn't have been all that easy. So talk about it. How did you get to where you are? What do you attribute that to?
My mother and father, candidly. Coming here in this particular role was somewhat by accident, right? It was accidental that I went into the dealership, and at that time the owner's son had been placed in the position. It was somewhat accidental that I went to another part of the dealership that I had never been involved or had intentions of working. When Todd Green called me to come over here in 1997, they thought that he was probably a little crazy to hire someone as a sales manager who had never sold cars. It just didn't make a lot of sense. But I feel like if you work hard, I feel like if you prove yourself, then you're going to get the opportunities. And I feel like I've worked hard. I know that I've prepared. And when the opportunities come, I take full advantage of them. And it's one of the things when we, as we discuss what we do in community. Why do we do it? Well, because I want a better tomorrow than today. And you only get there by getting involved and making sure that you can get things done. I have to admit, sometimes I've tried to do too much. It's difficult to allow others to do what you know you can do, part of leadership, part of growth, because you just want to say, I got it, I'll get it done, and you move on. But you also hinder their growth.
Right.
So part of being a leader is sitting back and allowing them to do the same thing that I was allowed to do. I had great people around me. I had wonderful mentors who said, let me teach you. Let me do the same thing that I've tried to do for others, which is let me teach you. You're going to make some mistakes. Okay, if you make a mistake, how do you learn from it? And now make sure you don't make the same mistake again. That's been really, I think, my journey. And my mother and father told me, you can do anything. Whatever you want to do, you can do it. My dad was born in 1909 in Greenville, South Carolina.
Wow.
Right? Had me at the age of 60. He's only child. But one of the things that he always instilled in me is to go be your best. I've tried to do that.
Yeah, clearly. So you mentioned community, and you have stepped into countless community roles. We serve together in several capacities. You're on boards, you are in service, advocacy, all of it. What compels you to keep saying yes to these things? This is hard work that often goes unnoticed, unpaid. What keeps you going?
I want to see people thrive. One of the greatest satisfactions of doing what we do in the automobile industry is when you take someone who didn't think they could get what they were looking at. They didn't think they could afford it. They didn't think they'd be financed. They didn't believe that it was right for them. And I get to walk out and be a hero every day. I get to walk out and shake someone's hand and say, it's yours. And the smile on their face goes, wow. Or I get to show people how to make something affordable that they didn't think, and they just go, wow. Well, I take that same mentality and we try to now translate that into different parts of our community. We have opportunities in the various positions that we do to make people's lives better, to make it so that they don't necessarily struggle as much. So make it that they believe that tomorrow is going to be better than today. And if we do that, it's a great feeling. I love walking through this community and having somebody walk up to me and shake my hand and tell me, as they remind me, because I have a bad memory sometimes, but they remind me who they are and how I help them. Or they remind me that what organization I was involved in and they benefited from that. There really is no better feeling. Money aside, that's just a feeling that you can't describe it accurately. And I think that's why I keep saying yes to things, because I keep wanting more for people.
Yeah, but you can't say yes to it all.
You
so
can't.
how do you prioritize for yourself? What are you going to say yes to, and what do you have to say no to at times?
Well, I think the same thing that you do, Janet. Number one, I have to see how it aligns. There was a time when I would MC a lot of events in this community, and I found myself running front to back all the time. But I had to stop and ask myself, is what I'm showing up to, what I'm actually speaking for, does that align with me? And so through the years, there has been times when I've, one, had to take a step back. Most recently, I was involved in a board that is designed to benefit and support a national law enforcement agency. And I said to them, one, because of other commitments, but two, because of how I see some things happening nationally, I've got to take a step back, because I'm no longer comfortable saying that I am a community liaison or a representative ad hoc, not necessarily against the people, but more so against, and I'm going to call the weaponization of the agency itself. That's a really close example of the most recent time that I had to take a step back. Personally, professionally. There have been others. Right? There are times I get calls to do things and I have to look them right square in the eye and say, if I can't give you 100%, if I don't feel like I can attend the meetings, if I can't contribute, if I can't do the things outside of the regular meetings that make it beneficial to your organization and to me, then it's not fair. And so that's another time that I would say maybe some other time.
Yeah. Can you share with us maybe one of your more poignant service experiences, like, a story that you recall, like, wow, that was a moment. I'm so glad I did that.
Oh, I'll have to think on that one for a minute, Janet.
It's not on the script.
It was not on the script. I'm so glad I did that. Well, selfishly, I'm going to say what started out as a motorcycle ride 20 plus years ago. We were on that ride with a group of people, and someone said, hey, you should do this every year. Okay, sounds like fun. Get to ride on motorcycles. That later turned into a 501c3 that I started. And every single year, we now hand out scholarships to dependents of law enforcement and military families. We also provide assistance directly to the Illinois Military Family Relief Fund. And not really knowing what the IMFRF did at the time, but looking back now and understanding that any time a serviceman or woman is called to active duty in the state of Illinois, they can apply for what's called a hardship grant. Seems to never fail, from what I'm told, that when they're called away, something happens at home. The washer and dryer breaks. There's some adverse tragedy that they need money for, and that's what this particular fund is for. And so the organization that I founded, the Peacekeepers, is the largest civilian contributor any single year to that organization.
Wow.
The other part is, going to college, I realize now, with two in college, it costs a lot more than it did. You understand?
But we're trying to keep that cost very low here at UIS.
But we were handing out scholarships, and I used to think, everybody gets a little bit, right? And my wife reminded me, you're asking people to do a lot for $200. Well, you're probably right. Well, now we're awarding scholarships upwards of $3,000 to $5,000. And again, I know as someone who has a senior and a junior at the collegiate level, that's a huge help. So looking back, it's a lot of work. But I am so happy every single year when we get to award those scholarships, or when we get to write that check, to the IMFRF, knowing I can see the tangible results. I know that I'm helping a student, and I know that some family is able to benefit off of what we did.
That's great. That's fantastic. All right, when you think about a better Springfield, because you mentioned Springfield's been a wonderful community for you and your family, but when you think about what a better Springfield looks like, not just for those already thriving, but for everyone, what comes to mind for you?
An unequal playing field. That's the first thing that comes to mind. I don't think it's the same for everyone. I don't think that everyone gets the same look. I don't think everyone gets the same opportunity. I don't think everyone gets the same chances. A better Springfield to me means we find ways to provide those opportunities. We find ways to go into parts of the community that some people don't want to walk into. We find ways of saying, you know what, maybe we're not going to shift all the businesses this way, we're going to invest more that way, or we're going to ensure that this particular school has as many opportunities as that school, that we're investing as much in the arts as we're doing in athletics. That's what a better Springfield looks like. It also means that those people who are struggling in terms of businesses, that we take the time to educate. Not everybody understands everything that's available. The toughest time for us in business really was navigating the pathway through the COVID pandemic. It seemed to change almost by the hour. Well, we were very fortunate, right? We had people we could pick up the phone and call. We had advocates. We had people that were calling us. But not everyone had those same opportunities. Not everyone had those same avenues. If they did, they weren't aware of them. A lot of businesses closed. We're seeing a lot of businesses close around us now. So we have to ask the question, why? What is transpiring in Springfield now that's causing a decline in some of those things? And what can we do as a community to bring it back? The better the community is, the more opportunity there is, the better we all are. So that's some of the things that I look at when I think of what does a better Springfield look like. The other part is I think we need to be willing to have hard conversations with people who feel like they didn't get a fair shake, with people who feel like, because it's not always what we think we know, sometimes it's what people feel, right? That perception for them is their reality.
Right.
And if they feel like they're being discriminated against, if they feel like they're being ostracized, if they feel like, man, that people just don't care as much, well, then inherently it's on all of us, collectively and individually, to say, how do I make that situation better? The better I make it for them, the better it is for us.
Yeah, sounds good. You know, and that goes back to what you said earlier about listening, you know, the empathy and the listening. How do you think Springfield as a community could be a better listener?
It would depend upon the form. In some forms, I would say we need a sense of professionalism. I think we have to be willing to have hard conversations without it being a yelling match. I think you have to be able to have a hard conversation and say, I understand how you feel. I recognize that. This is how I feel. I hope you recognize that. And we can agree to disagree. But now how do we move forward? How do we navigate that path so that everyone benefits a little? How do we compromise? I think that's the first part. We have to be willing to have hard conversations in a professional way. I think you have to have people that are willing to sit in a room. From what I see, there are many times that there are people on one side, there are people on the other side. They go that direction, they go that direction. And everybody talks about their own way, their own path. In the end, they all want the same thing. Right? They just have different ways they want to get there. So sometimes we've got to grab one person by the hand, grab another person by the hand and go, hey, look, you want the same thing. How do I get you there? That's a better Springfield.
Definitely, yeah. And really everything you just mentioned is what we've been trying to encapsulate here with the Chancellor's Thinker Series. We've been trying to bring guests here to talk about things like that, to provoke thought and represent different perspectives and get people to really listen to what people have to say, to try to understand. So again, thanks for contributing and being a part of this.
Sure.
So you've shared how important tough conversations are, just talked about it. Can you walk us through a time when you had to confront something very difficult and what it taught you, particularly about leadership?
I think one that comes to mind that always comes forward because it was so right there. Again, I have to go back to our dealership. We had a gentleman walk in, and the first thing that he asked was, "Who's in charge?" That was his question. Who's in charge? And the reason that he asked that question is because he said, and I quote, "'Cause I'm not dealing with the N-word down the street." Welcome to Springfield. This is within the last 15 years, right? And out I walked. So I had a conversation. And I think a lot of my team wanted to just throw the individual out. Let's have a conversation. What's on your mind? I'm going to give you the pass because I feel like something happened, and whatever you're harboring, let's figure out how we're going to walk through this. Well, in the end, he ended up purchasing a vehicle. He ended up apologizing. He said that I shouldn't have said that. And I look at that and my team says, I don't know how you did that one. I look back on it and say, I don't know how I did that one. But it was one of those things that I could react. A very good friend of mine said there's always two ways. You can react emotionally or professionally. I wanted to have an emotional reaction. I chose to have a professional reaction. And unfortunately, Janet, those types of, I shouldn't say opportunities, those types of scenarios are happening more and more right now in our community. Those types of interactions, the pendulum is starting to swing more that way. And that is daunting. It's very scary. It's perplexing. Because when we have those conversations, when we can talk to people one-on-one, when we can get in the same room, we break barriers. We're able to move forward. That one resonates with me as a one. I'll share a second because I think that there were two. I serve as an auxiliary deputy for the Sangamon County Sheriff's Office. It was shortly after the George Floyd murder, and I was riding with someone in a car, and we were on patrol, and we were driving down Stevenson Avenue. We had received information that there may be a lot of people coming into town, and the goal was to how we're making sure that we don't have any bad things happening in the city. We don't have any people tearing things up. And we were traveling, and the particular individual with me, as we were driving east past the firehouse, looks at me and says, "Hey, you know the good thing about fire trucks, right?" And I go, "No, what?" He goes, "They got fire hoses. That's one way to stop a crowd." And it caught me aghast. I went, "What?" And so I said, well, my dad was born in 1909, Greenville, South Carolina. And so one of the things that he used to tell me about fire trucks and fire hoses is that it stopped them and the pain that it caused. And immediately, the gentleman I was with, who is a very good friend, pulled over. And we began to have a conversation. I said, "Man, I'm sorry. I was really kind of making a joke. I didn't mean it that way. I didn't think about it." I said, "It's one of those things you have to think about. It's one of those things that you have to remember. When you say something, it can be a trigger. It can adversely and derail conversations." That I feel like was an opportunity for me to educate someone as to, I don't want to say it was necessarily an implicit bias, but it was just, I didn't think about it that way. But in our community and in our world, you always have to think about how someone else may think about it. He's told me to this day, I've never said that again. I feel like that was an opportunity for educational leadership and growth together.
Definitely.
Yeah.
You know, you see oftentimes that people don't intend something to hurt or come off in a certain way, but the impact doesn't lessen, right? So I think as a leader, trying to have those conversations with people, I know you didn't intend this, but the impact was this, are really important so that it doesn't happen again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's critical to understand that it's not so much the intent, as you said, as the actual result. So as one person said, it's not the intent, it's the impact.
Right.
And you didn't intend it, but it was impactful, and I try to be mindful of that as well.
Yeah. You also mentioned being calm, you know, not emotional. And I
Sometimes.
think, oh yeah, you know, I think that it is a necessary quality for a leader, right? To remain calm, remain steady. But I'm just going to add a personal experience as a woman leader, right? I think women by nature are a little more expressive emotionally, and I think it's important to not confuse calm with a lack of emotion. Personally, I think I have embraced what being a woman leader means by being me, and I think people see that I can be emotional. I laugh a lot, I laugh loud, I do get upset at times, and I think as long as you control that in a way that is sensitive of other people, it's important. And you know, you talked about your role being a Black leader. Maybe not to the same degree, but being a woman leader has certain challenges as well. And I think certain perceptions of emotionality and feeling associated with women leaders can be somewhat negative at
And
times.
so to that, then I'm curious as to how your response has been as you've been placed in similar situations, because you hear, she's emotional, she's a woman, right? What has that been like in your leadership position?
Well, you know, I think that there are certain perceptions that women or anyone as a leader is faced with, right? I think people have an idea of what a leader is, and maybe particularly in higher ed. And I often hear, I'm a woman chancellor. Well, no, I'm a chancellor. I'm not necessarily a woman chancellor, but I see, you know, it is remarkable, I suppose, I don't know. I wish that could be removed from it all, right? I'm just the leader of the university. I'm not a woman chancellor. You know, I think that there are certain perceptions of what a chancellor should be in general. I shared this with you when I met. You know, my husband doesn't live in Springfield, and for a lot of people that is a question. It's an interesting question, and I don't know why. If I was a male chancellor, nobody would be asking me why my wife didn't live in Springfield. So there are, I think, certain perceptions that people have that I have been cognizant of as I've navigated this role. But, you know, I think that's what you do as a leader, right? You figure out what is interesting to people and what people want to know, and you navigate that so it doesn't become a thing.
Does it change your approach?
Yeah, I think so. You know, I think that, you know, my approach is, I'm me, I'm the chancellor. You know, and I often say when people ask me, you know, will your husband be attending? You know, I say no, he's busy, or, you know, I don't expect him to come, this is my job, right? So it all works out. It all works out.
Sure.
Yeah. I see the women in the room laughing. They can relate to this. I will say too, you mentioned this also, and I think that one of the things that I have thought about being a woman leader and how it has changed the way that I lead is I'm very aware of other women leaders trying to make a mark. And I try very hard to enable them, empower them, help them when I can, because women aren't always as kind as we can be to each other. And to me, it's really important to see, everyone succeed and do the best work that they can do in their position. But I'm particularly sensitive to that to women, because I've had good women mentors and not so good women mentors. And I want to be known as somebody who lifts all women up, because all women are in this together.
Well, to your point, I think that is also so critically important, right, for us. And one of the things that I when I look for people to advance, I'm looking for the best candidates. Who do I think is going to perform the best, regardless of anything else? Who will be the best representation? Who will help recruit? Who will help train? Who will help advance what we are trying to do as a corporation, whether it's on a board, who can help us advance our mission as a board member. I think the toughest part about today is that some of those efforts are really kind of coming with a cloud, which is an unfair cloud to you. It's an unfair cloud to me. Again, if you're having some of those real conversations, the fact that you're a woman, the fact that I'm a black male has nothing to do with the positions that we hold. We're here because we were chosen to be the best people for the job. And that's why we're in the room, and that's why we are here. And as a leader, I want to continue to impress that upon the people who follow me and who work for me. And whatever I can do to help make them better. It's constantly learning. I sent my entire team, I've spent a lot of money over the last 60 days sending them to leadership courses, both at SMU and another advanced course that was in Chicago for 3 days, because the better they are, the better they make everyone else around them. And you have to not be afraid to invest in your people. We can't hold back advancements because we're afraid of someone else's success. Can't be afraid not to share what you've learned because you're nervous that someone may be better behind you. That's great. Don't make me push you, pull me. It's great. And the more that I can give them, the more that they can learn, the easier my job is. I got a lot more opportunity to go do other things if my team's strong.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally. All right. I think we're going to open it up to the audience.
That was fast.
Yeah, we even went over.
Hi, I'm Stacy Kaufman. You talked about the experience that you had or the opportunity of telling someone regarding the N-word. Why does it always feel like it falls on us to teach other people something that they should probably already know because it's out there, it's history? Why is it our responsibility to do that?
I don't know if, and Stacey, thank you for the question. I don't know if it's our responsibility as so much as it was our opportunity. Because in that moment, you've got a choice. I can brush it off and go, okay. Or I can hit it head on. And if I hit it head on, now you've got to make a decision. You can acknowledge that what you said was wrong, and we can have that conversation. You can go on with the belief and the narrative what you said was right, and trust me, I don't believe that you'll think it was right, and we can have that conversation. But either way, I want to have the conversation. And so again, I don't think it's necessarily our responsibility. I think it's our opportunity. As I said earlier, I still think it's baffling that today, in today's world with everything around us, we're still having the same conversations. That in and of itself is just weird, as my kids would say. But we're having them, right? And we're having them more frequently than we should.
Other questions?
Thank you. I do think community, is the most important things that we should be focusing on. How do we encourage people to get more engaged in their community, serve on boards, serve the public, serve their community instead of just going back to their neighborhoods and their houses?
I mean, Jenny, you're on, I think, as many boards as I am, but I simply ask. There's some people in this room, as I scan around, they're doing the heavy lift. They're really out there doing the heavy lift and the hard work in some of the organizations that I know that are represented in this room today. And they ask. They ask me, they ask their neighbors, they ask their church members, they ask strangers, will you come and help? And if you really give people a reason, if you tell them what the benefit is on the other side, we call them feature advantage benefits, right? If I tell you what it is we're going to do, and I tell you why we're going to do it, and I tell you the outcome if we do this, what happens, I really think you get buy-in. Springfield's a pretty good place. We've had some horrific tragedies in our community, and this community has rallied, not once, but repeatedly, all across the aisle. This community comes together. I'd love to see that same tenacity daily and weekly. Imagine what this community would be like if we had that same push all the time, instead of when something tragic happens that moves people. To your point, I think you simply have to ask, and I don't mean to dominate that question.
Well, and I know that, our role here at the university, we want all our students to feel like they're a part of the Springfield community, right? We go to extra efforts to make that happen through the Office of Civic and, engagement and all of that. And, we feel that as a public regional university, it is our duty to help the community and have our students help the community, but you also hope that that happens at the high school level and in grade schools and is modeled in the family, right? I mean, if you grow up in a life of service, you're more likely to do that throughout your life. And I know that my parents both really were community-oriented people, and I was always told that you can't just live in a community, you have to live the community. And so it shapes you from an early age. And that's what we need to do, is we need to model this, not just as leaders, but as community members, as parents, as people.
To piggyback that, for the educators in the room, I think a great core class from elementary up should be some sort of civic engagement. I think we wait too late to try to explain to people the importance of volunteering and helping your community. We grow up with this, it's about me mentality. How do I get to the next level? How do I do this? And we forget about everyone else. Well, imagine if, not just in the second grade field trip, but imagine if through your core curriculums throughout your youth and high school and then higher education, that it was always grounded in you, we're gonna go help. Something, somewhere, somebody. Well, now it becomes a part of your nature. It's secondhand. This university is the best kept secret in town. I hate to say that, but it truly is. The amount of knowledge, the wealth of opportunities that are at this university, and as someone in the business community, I oftentimes tell people, just call UIS. We're going all over the place trying to find experts. Just call UIS. They got them out there. Students are looking for things to do. I had a young lady come to me several years ago. She did an internship and we wrote it up and she did it and She moved to Florida, and she's running some big business in Florida. She sent me a message, hey, thanks. I went, thank you. It's the only one we've had, right? And it's not for lack of knowing, probably our just lack of trying. We need to open the gateway more to this community with this university and other places here, and bring other students and, really kind of show them what the community is all about.
I'll give you an intern. You can give me a car.
That did not seem balanced at all. What in the back chair?
I think that's a good idea, though.
I'm just thinking that's going to be one heck of an intern.
Hi, I'm Ravneet. I'm one of the employees here at the university. I don't have that much of a question, more of a comment, that kind of a thing. It's very emotional to see all the topics that you guys covered, even though we're talking about bringing the community together. But some of the stuff really hits home, like being a woman leader, being a person of color, and myself being a woman of color, and trying to be in leadership, so to speak. So yeah, and what it sounds to me, my 2 cents, or as a community in the room. It sounds like most people don't intend bad. It's more about awareness. And this being a university, and pardon my ignorance, I don't know if we have courses like that. I do know that we have an international baccalaureate, school here in town. And sometimes I hear people talking about, oh, they hear about, my religion, or, that kind of a stuff. Oh, I had a class in college about religion or about international something. So I think that's a good one to, educate people. Again, diversity, it could be in any form, religion. We're a secular country after all. So things like that. So, it's wonderful, all the stuff that you were talking about. I don't have a question, you covered it very well, but I just felt very emotional about everything, all the it's really sensitive topics you guys covering today. Thank you.
Hello, my first job is as a IT project coordinator, but my second job is working with a community center. And so my question as a coordinator, I tend to lead with why. They say the golden circle is, instead of saying what and how you do things, to lead with the why to get better buy-in. So as an organization trying to get buy-in from other organizations, how do you feel it's better to lead? What's better to lead with?
If I understand you correctly, for your organization to try to get buy-in from other organizations, is it better to lead with the why would you do this as opposed to what it is that you want them to do?
The what or the how or who we are, because it's kind of like I'm craft different statements, and it's just seems like sometimes you think you're getting traction, but it falls on deaf ears. So I'm just trying to, from a leadership standpoint in an organization, and that type of organization, trying to connect with other organizations, because sometimes it could be with people, you can lead with the heart, but as a company, is it better to lead with the heart or lead with the logic of it? Because I could go to an organization and say, hey, our community center, these are the statistics and the data where we're in need, and when they hear that, you would think that, okay, if they have the means to help, they will help, but that's not what I'm seeing. So I'm trying to figure out, is from organization to organization, do you lead with the what or the how or the who we are, or do I still continue to lead with the why?
That's a great question. And I think that, and I hate to make this I'm painting with a very broad stroke, but I think you have to a la carte it depending upon who the audience is, right? Because I don't think you can have, we talk about the 2-minute elevator, right? Whatever your organization is, you got to have 2 minutes. What can you tell us about your organization in 2 minutes? It would astonish you the number of requests we get, and I'll speak for me and for my store, it would astonish you. From, not kidding, the number of people who call on a monthly basis and say, will you give me a free car?
I was just kidding.
Right, I know. But so I have believed, Todd Green told me when I came to town in 1997, get involved. So one thing he said, get involved. And there's some longtime Springfield residents here. He said, but if you get involved, let Springfield get to know you. They'll support you, but they have to know you first. Another reason why I do it, I want Springfield to know me. Not that I want everybody to buy it. Yeah, I do. But I feel like they have to know you, to like you, to listen to you, and then trust you enough to do business with you. But in your case, I would continue to lead with, this is who we are. And this is what we need. And this is why we need it. But don't take that no as a complete no. Mm-hmm. It might just be a no for now. Mm-hmm. So I think that the second part of your question with whomever it is that a no or is that a no for now?
And I'll just go back to something that Mylas brought up before, and that's alignment, right? So if you're trying to collaborate with other organizations, sometimes I feel that it's very helpful to think about how your vision and what you are trying to accomplish aligns with what they're trying to accomplish, right? And get that shared vision so you can move both, together. You can say, this is our vision, this is our values, this is what we're trying to accomplish. I think you are too, right? And see if you can get the collaboration moving on those lines.
Mylas, I was going to ask you, you were talking about your vision of a better Springfield, and you talked a little bit about the role UIS could play in that in one of your previous answers, but in a maybe more global sense or a different sense or a more expanded sense. What is your vision of a better Springfield, and how do you see UIS playing a role in that?
I think that there are, for instance, there are a number of projects that require studies. There are a number of things that say we have to look at the economic impact. We have to look at the community impact and how will it advance. There are a number of businesses that are trying to find ways to improve our technology. We're trying to improve our communication. We are really trying to find out ways to say, for instance, technology today in automobiles is completely different than what it used to be. Well, if you can't figure out how to convey that to your consumer, you're going to lose. If we can't figure out that a lot of our consumers are comfortable shopping at night on a device while watching another device and listening to a third, we're going to lose. But some of us have been doing this a long time, and we're not as savvy as the people at this university. So my thought process is that all these times we're looking for industry experts, or we're looking for ways to improve our business, or we're looking for ways to improve our community. I would venture to say that someplace on this university, somewhere under her umbrella, there is something or someone that can help. There just is, right? There's a number of schools at this university that can probably help a business, but I think that we need a go-to. Hey, I've got a need. Is this something that you think you could help us with? That would be great, right? Next year I take over the president or chairman's role of the chamber. I think it'd be great to say, every business in here that's represented by the chamber, if you have a need, call this number, UIS, ask them if they can help. Let's start there. That immediately is going to, I'd say, produce a conduit and another line of communication that the entire community, business community, knows, I got an area of experts right out here. And if they're not experts, you at least have a group of people who are combining their thoughts to give you expert-like opinions. which is really, as business people, what we're looking for. As a city, that's really what we should be looking for. And I'm not discounting the things that come from think tanks and organizations and people that we bring in and pay a lot of money to bring in, and studies from all over the country. I don't discount those. But I do say that we got a lot of people in our own backyard. Maybe all we need to do is ask them. And that's what I think of. What a great opportunity for a graduating senior to be able to say, I helped do this and we got it done. And they published it. And here it is. And now it's a business model for another community to use, or another business to use. That, I think, it's a selling point for the university. It's a selling point for our city. It's a selling point for our business community. I just think it's a win. Too easy.
Any more questions?
Got the last one. It wouldn't be the Chancellor's Thinkers series without the final question.
Okay.
Here it goes.
Okay.
What keeps you expanding your thinking and challenging your perspectives?
No, I think I answered it earlier. I want tomorrow to be better than today. That really is, I want tomorrow to be better than what we had today. I want it to be easier. I want it to be more accessible. I want it to be more rewarding for everyone, not just me, for my kids, for my employees, for my colleagues, for my community. And if we continue to expand, if we continue to work together, really together, there's a lot of people that say together that don't mean together. But if we really are in it together, then we'll just keep advancing. We'll keep trying to find a way, not for me, but what benefits all of us. That's that collaborative, collective thinking that compromises and makes growth possible.
Thank you, Mylas. Thanks for being here. Thanks for all your honest and frank answers to our questions. And thanks for all you do for our community, because it is a lot. We do have a gift for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I encourage everyone to enjoy the food that we have and approach us and ask us any questions you didn't want to ask the whole audience, and just have a good time. Thank you.
Thank you guys.